Hello and welcome everybody to Horsehead Weekly, the Week 1 edition. This week we're going to be doing things a little bit differently once again. Last week we only had a preview based on the draft. This week we're just going to basically have power rankings and a game of the week pick. And then next week is when we really get started, and it's going to be a full thing. We're going to have interviews, we're going to have fun little segments, we're going to have the power rankings at the end. It's going to be great. It's going to be lovely. But that's in the future. For now, let's get started with week number 1 with a discussion of the transactions. This is going to be a regular segment, but with 16 transactions so far, 9 with over 5 players, or 5 or more players, it's a bit of a mess. I cannot actually keep track of all of the people that have been moved. In the future, hopefully, if the trades die down a little bit, then yeah, I'm gonna really go in depth on a couple of trades and really see how they worked out. But it's just been so crazy with today being maybe 6 trades in itself. So yeah, that's how it's going on. And I don't know if you noticed, there's been 16 trades so far. Tyler has been 11, which is why he now is Trade Tyler, and Trade Nick is now just Nick. I'm sorry, Trade Tyler. You're now Trade Tyler, and I'm sorry, Trade Nick. You lost. You lost it. You had your chance, and you blew it. Sorry, man. It's no longer yours. And speaking of people who might be blowing it, you got Jess, Dave, and Gerald. Um, Jess being somebody who doesn't really trade that much last year. That's just kind of her thing. Dave's whole thing is still unknown to me because this is his first year in the league, so maybe he's not entirely sure how this whole trading thing works. And but there's a surprise with Gerald, who he did a decent amount of trading last year, not a ton, but he did some trades. He made some stuff work. But I think he's just super confident in his team right now, and he's gonna sit still and hope that the picks he made in the draft work out for him. So now, done with all of that, because I can't get into it. Too much happened. Instead, we're going to move on to the tiers and the rankings. So the tier names are about as far apart as what the teams are. So if you see, you know, the 2016 Browns are the low end, and the high end is the 72 Dolphins, well, then you got to know, one team is just garbage, terrible, because they're the Browns, and then the other team is just a shining example of perfection because they're the only team that's ever done it, and that is the 72 Dolphins. So we're not that far apart right now. As you're going to see, this week we're going with QBs, and we're going to get started with Carson Wentz. This is a tier based on they could be really good, but we haven't seen it yet. It's entirely possible that this is the tier of people that, they have players that are going to be great and they're going to break out and it's going to be great and they're just going to laugh at us and say, "Oh, Mark, I can't believe you had me at 12th or 10th and now I'm the best team in the league." Well, you know what? Good for you, man. If you made that run, then I'm sorry, I didn't see it coming. And that's, what these people are like. They're a little bit they have some untested players, some players that I'm not really sure are going to be good, but hey, anything's always possible this early in the season. And let's get started with, someone's got to be last. Someone has to be last, and this person is Matt M. He's got solid starting running backs, and that's where my compliments end with him. He lacks depth everywhere. His flex is just, I just don't like it. And when you look at his running backs, yeah, he's got DeMarco and McCaffrey. Those are probably two really good people, especially in PPR, because they both, can catch the ball and stuff. But then his number 3 is Robert Kelly. That's a good number 3, but not a flex-worthy number 3 in my opinion. He's just kind of gonna get you like 60 to 70 yards, maybe a touchdown every week. Uh, that's just all I can do. I can just make a noise at it. He does have Smallwood, who is a breakout candidate, and I really like sitting in the back. So hey, who knows? Maybe LeGarrette Blount won't be what they want. They'll put Smallwood in, give him the load. Him and Sproles will run around, do stuff. It'll be great, but who knows? But another big weakness for him that I kind of am a little about is his wide receivers. They're a bit of a joke, and I don't just mean that because they literally are Adam Sandler, or I'm sorry, Adam Sanders. Uh, it's just because they are like Adams. Yeah, he's a number one. He's not one of the top tier guys, but he's a number one. Sanders is, he's either going to get 5 or 15 points. He can get 25 points or he's going to get you 2. He's one of those type of players. He doesn't know how to score 11 points every week. And then when you look on his bench, he's got Galladay, who's No one really knows what he's going to be. He could be great. Same with Corey Davis. Devontae Parker, everyone's hype about him, but who really knows? And then Torrey Smith, who is a guy who catches footballs. That's it. So that's what my thoughts on Matt's team. I mean, it's someone's got to be last, and it just happened to be him. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the stuff he's doing. Like, for example, hey Matt, did you know that you can start Von Miller as a defensive lineman and go pick up another linebacker? That's something you can do, and all of a sudden that defensive line spot looks a lot better for you. Yeah, that's a free tip. Free tip right here. You know, and if you win because of it, just don't do it against me. So then next up, again, another Matt. So it's just been a bad week for Matt's. His pros, so many players that could break out so hard. I mean, his team is just full of potential and also potential to go wrong. That's the thing with potential. I mean, he's definitely has a player that I love on his team, which is AJ Green. I mean, rode him to victory last year for the championship. Even though he didn't play in the last couple weeks, he got me there, and that all I had to do was just show up for the rest of it. Um, but yeah, he's got Gurley and Hyde as his running backs. I mean, those are two people who are potentially top five backs, but Gurley hasn't had a good start since 20 games ago when he put up over 100 yards. And Hyde, he's just kind of good but risky because Shanahan doesn't like him. He's made that very clear. But yet they went and cut Hightower, and their backup got put on IR, so it's not a good situation. He's also betting on Carolina offense a little bit, their passing side, which is definitely not something they focused on recently. They're like throwing people because McCaffrey's doing something else. He's running, he's catching things out of the backfield. So Cam and Benjamin they're risky, and the list just goes on and on. I mean, and another thing that I don't like about his team, he has 3 running backs on his roster. 3. I mean, if Hyde or Gurley go down, he's starting Charles Sims. And if one of them go down and the other has a bye week or something like that, then I don't know what he has to go to the waiver wire and just pick up a guy who's a warm body, or maybe trade away AJ Green to pick up a couple of running backs. I don't know. It's a little bit risky, and if you want to trade me AJ Green, I got a bunch of running backs. I'm more than willing to make that deal. So that's my thought on him. Next up, we have the first of the newcomers, Doug. Yeah, he's got a good team. He's got solid wide receivers. His tight end's good. Quarterback's good. But his running backs are. I can't even really call them high upside. I mean, it's just they're not great. And I know that you made a trade with me to give me McCoy, but dude, like you just gotta hope. I mean, you have Forte, Bernard, Riddick, Powell, and Montgomery. Like those are 5 people. 2 of them should end up being really good. And considering the fact you have OBJ and Brennan Cooks, and you have a great defensive people, with Kuechly and Pierre-Paul, you have a really good team. It's just you're missing in one of like those really powerful positions. But lucky for you, you have something that other people don't have, which is depth there. So you can mix and match, and you can find matchups and exploit them, and try to make it work. And I think you're gonna have a good team, especially considering I think Ty Montgomery is going to end up being one of those borderline 1-2 people. And when you're starting wide receivers and tight end and quarterback and all of them are as good as they are, you're not really gonna have to worry a ton about what everyone else is doing. I think you're going to be fine. Next up is Jess. Jess is at 9. Again, she's one of those people who, just like Doug before, a couple positions very solid at, but everything else is either risky or just plain bad. Like wide receivers and quarterback, absolutely fantastic. Love him. Jimmy Graham breakout. Is he? I don't even know if he's a breakout candidate. He was 4th last year, so he's just a solid player. But when you're starting Coleman as your running back 2, and you have Jonathan Stewart in your flex, and you have Blunt sitting on your bench, it's a little risky. I mean, you might want to consider doing something because I'm not a huge fan of those gaps you have there. But it's one of those things again where when you have these other positions locked up so good, your running back 2 and flex can kind of take a little bit of a beating, and you can get by because you're going to be putting up 5 to 10 points more than anybody else at quarterback. You're going to be putting your wide receiver one's going to be dominating. Your wide receiver two's probably going to be dominating. So you're not going to have to worry too much because you can make up those points elsewhere. But it's and she also has a little bit of depth, so at running back. So we'll see how that goes. Uh, Next up we have Nick. Just Nick now. Sorry, dude. I said it earlier. I mentioned it before. You're just Nick now. You're no longer trade Nick, and you're gonna have to get over that because that or you're gonna have to start making more deals. We made a nice deal today, but hey, man, come on. You gotta play ball here. You gotta catch up to Tyler. He's showing you up. Uh, so his team is near the middle, and it's at the top of this tier because it is entirely made up of lottery tickets. I this is a team that could easily be the best team in the league, and I would have no idea. Like there are people super high on Brandon Marshall, and that's great. He was terrible last year. Year before that, he was good, but that was even like a year that he started declining. So how's he going to be this year when he's not like the guy on the team? He also has to put up with OBJ. He has to put up with Sterling Shepard. Even Ingram's going to be there catching balls. We're not really sure where he's going to fit, but we'll see. I mean, he is Brandon Marshall. Maybe he's got one more year in the tank. And he's got two rookies as starting running backs with the entirety of the New England backfield there. So whenever Belichick picks the name out of the hat for the person he's going to feature every week, maybe he can get lucky and match that up. Yeah, I mean he's got players. They all could be great, but I don't know. I don't know. And yeah, I just don't know. Dude, good luck. Just good luck. I have no idea. Um, and this brings us up to the next tier, the A class, which is the J Cutler tier. These are more people. These are people who more have everything really. We know we're going to get out of them, so they're not as risky as the lower tiers. But at the same time, you also know what you're getting with them. So they might not have all those top tier players. They might not have all those crazy good things going on for them. But you know what you're getting. You know it's going to be solid. There's not that risk that it's going to be spiky one way or the other. They're just solid teams that you can really bet on. And we start off with James, who has, in my opinion, the best starting running backs in the league easily. And the players that he's weak at are streamable positions, which is what you want to have. I mean, he's got Bell and Fournette, which are two really, really good people. I mean, maybe not the best in the league, but definitely up there. He's got Pryor, who I think is going to be easily a wide receiver one this year with Kirk Cousins throwing to him, and he's got that stack too, which I think is going to be great for him. He's got Golden Tate, who I think is going to be fantastic, and because of that, I mean, I'm looking. He's got Macklin, who's another breakout candidate, but then he's got Decker and Jones. Dude, just get rid of those people. Get them off your bench. Bring on like DeAndre Washington or somebody who can come out of nowhere and just win win a position if the person ahead of them goes down. There's him, there's Murray, there's a bunch of people on the waivers right now that you can go after and get, and will fix you up because right now I think you have three solid wide receivers, four if you count Macklin, and I do. And then you have three people on your bench who are just going to be sitting there all year, and you're never going to want to use, but you're never going to want to get rid of. So make some moves there, man. But yeah, overall, I think the team is really solid. And you can see the difference between the two tiers here, because this is a team that you know what you're going to get from a lot of these players, and you know it's going to be good. You know it's going to be solid production. But it's not that top tier production, with the exception of Le'Veon Bell. The next person we have is Gerald, who is rostering only 3 running backs, which I don't like. I mean, I don't know if it's an issue with depth this year or what, but I just feel like the running back position is a little thin, and people like Gerald I figured would understand. Like he's Jerry, he's very good at the league, he's always in the playoffs every year, and I just kind of figured he would, maybe he had a little. I don't know what the problem is, but he's sitting here with, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Pierre Garçon, and Cobb, Nelson, Lockett. You don't. That's too many people, dude. You need to try to stock up on the running backs. I know it's hard to do. I mean, I can say that. Oh, stock up on running backs. Running backs are very important. Well, if there's none out there, then you really can't do that. But I'm just a little bit surprised that he let his roster fall this way, um, through the draft, I guess, because he hasn't made any trades or anything. But yeah, I think he has a very solid team, and he could definitely make another run at the playoffs here with this. And I mean, but if he could even go farther if Ingram, Abdullah, Hopkins, if they do what they're supposed to do this year and what people are hyping them up to be, then they could be absolutely insane. But who really knows what's gonna happen? I don't. Oh boy, let's find out in the future together, kids. But that was weird. I'm sorry. That was bizarre. But yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be a fun team to watch, an interesting team to watch, as well as my team, which is just a great team. And I know you probably think I'm super biased, but I really think this is a great team. You have a top five quarterback, a top five running back, a top five wide receiver, a top two tight end. That's pretty good. And then you have Woodhead, who I think is top 15 easily. Watkins, who could be you return to that original form that he had. Who you got to remember, Tyrod Taylor, not a great pass thrower, and Jared Goff, who's getting balls thrown to now. I think it's Jared Goff. He looks really good right now. Like he looks like he really took the offseason to work on his mechanics, get everything sound. So I think Sammy Watkins could be great if he can just avoid that injury bug. And I don't know. I just think this seems really, really good. I mean, I got nice depth. I got Mixon, Henry, and Tampa Bay backfield as my backup for my running backs. So in case Woodhead doesn't pan out or McCoy gets hurt, got tons of depth there. And I get to, have Rodgers and Martin for 15 weeks straight. So I'm not going to have to worry about a bye for one of my, running backs from here on out. I really do think this team is just super solid, but at the same time, it's one of those teams where you never really know. Anything can happen, but, I guess to wrap it all up, what I'm saying is, y'all suck. This is the best team in the league, but I didn't want everyone to think I was biased by putting myself as number one. So, too bad. So in fourth, we have Dave, who is brand new. Don't know much about his tendencies or what he's like, but he's got a team of guys. He's got Drew Brees, Freeman, and Howard, who I think are three studs. And then he's got some wide receivers and stuff. I don't know. The thing with these teams is right now we don't really know a lot about them, and I'm not really good at making jokes about them because I'm not entirely sure what's going on with them. I can't make. There's not a lot of cool storylines or anything going on. Um, I don't know. Delaney Walker's probably not that good this year, so maybe is he old and needs a walker? Uh, Rounding out the tier is Malcolm. Malcolm is somebody who's going to be, again, he's going to be streaming quarterbacks and defensive backs, but everything else is really great for him. He has two top 10 running backs. He's got Jordy Nelson, who's a top 5 guy. Tyler Eifert, who could be number 2, number 3 at his position if he's healthy. Ogletree and Watt are both absolute studs at their position. Like, there should probably be number 1 at their position or number 2 in their position. With Watt probably just ending up being number 1. I mean, these are all people who are. This team is just absolutely stacked. I really like Terrence West this year. Last year he ended up finishing just inside of the top 24, and I think he's going to do even better this year. He's got another year kind of doing that, and then he also has Woodhead to give him extra rest and stuff. But I still think he's going to be their guy who's getting the touchdowns and really doing the work. Whoop. Um, but yeah, and the thing with Mac is it's very clear he does not learn from past mistakes. Love you, Malcolm. But you have on your team Allen Robinson and Josh Gordon. Need I remind you what happened last year with those two players? They were both, well, one literally didn't even see a football field because he was about to see a football field and then did stupid stuff, assuming he smoked something, and then was like, gotta go to rehab, which, I mean, good for him getting his life together and everything like that. But, dude, come on. Like, you're right there. You're right there. And then Allen Robinson, who you picked in the first round above people like, oh, I don't know, just off the top of my head, AJ Green, uh, OBJ, and David Johnson in the first round. Those are three people you picked him over, and he ended up not even being a wide receiver two, and you ended up, kind of not having him to do anything. You basically punted on your first overall pick. So, sorry, dude. I mean, you gotta learn from your mistakes. Um, Now, hopefully, Crowell will be good for you. I know he was really good for a while last year, but he also had his ups and downs. So I expect him to be more consistent, but I mean, a lot of these players on your team now are players from last year on your team, and I'm really hoping you know what you're doing because your whole thing is you draft people you like to watch. So good luck watching them. I guess I don't know. And this brings us, after you saw a little bit of a preview earlier, to the S class, the Matty Ice class. They're not Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to like completely dominate and run away and just take over because they're so much better than everybody else. But they're definitely super solid, and they're somebody who their teams are just look at Mike's team. He's got he's got David Johnson and Mike Evans on his team. Those are two. That's the number 2 pick in my book, and probably number 7 in my book if I was going to draft right now. 2 and 7 should not be on the same team this early in the season unless something bad happened to one of them, and nothing bad happened. He just ended up getting lucky with some trades, finding some people who like something more than anybody else, and putting in the time and effort to make those trades happen. And boom, here we go. He's got a miraculous little team. And I mean, even if you were looking at the team now, ignoring the bench, you'd be like, that's a pretty solid team. That's probably, middle of the pack, blah, blah, blah. And then you keep looking, you're like, oh, he has Jameis instead of Eli. He has Quan Alexander, who he can plug in for Zach Brown. And Quan Alexander is probably going to be one of the very top linebackers this year. And he also has Mike Evans. Cool. So that's a bunch of good stuff. His flex, he has an Eddie Lacer right now, but that could easily be Danny Amendola. I mean, with Malcolm Mitchell gone now and Julian Edelman gone, once Gronk goes down, which, I mean, no offense to the Gronk owner, but it's going to happen. It's what he does. You can get Amendola in there, and this seems just going to be insane. He literally just needs to find a warm body between Frank Gore and Lacey every single week to just fill in for that RB2 slot, and he's going to be an absolute juggernaut. However, just because you're the best right now doesn't mean you're the best. Because there's still one team left, and that team belongs to Tyler. Just look at this freaking starting lineup, okay? He's got Brady, Gordon, Miller, Thomas, Allen, Gronk. Now let me show it to you on this. Okay, we have the best quarterback, a top 5 running back, a top 15 running back, a top 5 wide receiver, top 6 we'll say, a top 12 wide receiver, the best tight end, a warm body at flex because I still hate Marshawn Lynch. I think he's trash. And for the love of God, pick up DeAndre Washington, dude, because you're going to need him when he ends up going down. I mean, you have 3 bench spots you're not even using. Just pick up both of his backups so when he goes down, you have one of them. And then he's got just like Lorenzo Alexander, who's just a super solid defensive lineman. You have a defensive back in Harrison Smith, who is, in my opinion, a top 4 safety this year. And then Freeman, who you can just stream all. Like, your team is fantastic. And then you have Tyrell Williams and Ted Ginn, who could both be breakouts. And if Philip Rivers ends up being any good, you can even unload him for something to upgrade at one of your positions. Like, your team is good. I really cannot find a hole in it. Even at flex, I can look at it and be like, well, yeah, his flex is one weak point in the entire thing. And by weak point, I mean, it's still good. It's just not to the level of everybody else. And Tyrell Williams, if this is his year that he does that thing that everyone thinks he's going to do, he's going to break out and be fantastic. You just slide him right in, and everything's good to go. His team is just stacked. It's fantastic. I love it. Now, up next we have the game of the week. There's 6 games. Only one game can be the game of the week every week. And this week we have Gerald versus Mike. These two teams are both, I think they're top 5 in the league and the power rankings. And I think they're the only two matchups between top 5 teams. And not only that, but I think this is going to be one of those games that's going to be very close. And it's going to come down to Ingram and Rudolph going into that last game. For them at least. There's another game after on Monday night, but that no one's in the game here. And I think this is going to be a really good test for these two teams going up against each other. I mean, it's going to be good. It's going to be good, and these are two absolutely solid teams with studs all up and down. Well, maybe not studs all the way up and down, but very good players all the way up and down. And I think this is going to be a real fun game to keep track of on top of your own game this week. So keep that in mind. And that's it. That's the first full show. If you guys didn't make so many goddamn trades today, maybe I would have been able to write some jokes. But I spent all my time trying to get this PowerPoint done so I could, finish all this up and get it out to you before kickoff. So, remember that next Thursday when you're making all your goddamn trades. But yeah, so next week's going to be the first full show, and it's going to have all kinds of fun stuff. It's going to have updates on all the league happenings. It's going to have the name game, which is a segment I'm bringing out for next week. We're going to have an interview with a wave rider. You guys can guess who that's going to be. And yeah, we're going to have games of the week and power rankings and all the fun stuff and happenings. So thank you all for sticking around this long. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next week. Have a good night.